Hi, it's Overnight25 and welcome to Elite Dangerous on the Xbox. And today I'm bringing you a video from Shinny. This is a fun, entertaining evening's silliness. I had multiple fights, quite a few of them. I'll be bringing you most of them. I lost as many as I won. I'm actually not sure what the final count was. Some of them were completely unfavourable. This one might have been in my favour because I hadn't checked before I challenged him, but I was shocked to see that he had no chaff whatsoever. Now, as a gimballed scrub, I always find it shocking when people run without chaff, even though I quite often run without chaff. It was a 4PA one rail gun build. It's Provost, who's Australian, so yeah, it's gonna mean that it's going to be quite rough for him to hit plasmax on me, and yeah, he had real struggles at the early part of this fight, whether that was either instancing or anything. I don't know how good his connection was, but certainly the early part of the fight he seemed to struggle. Just as he was killing himself, burning alive, at the final part of the fight he started to do some real chunky damage. So, you know, it was swings and roundabouts. It was a fun 1v1. It's always going to be a tough fight for someone who hasn't got chaff against a build like mine that keeps constant damage on you, and also he was having issues with the blinding beams because they are super annoying and blind people. There is nothing more fun than blinding people, but people seem to have forgotten like the rules of engagement when fighting me. One is you avoid the ram, and two, you bring chaff. I mean, that's basically the two rules when fighting me. Most people lately seem to have forgotten that, especially the not ramming me. I've had a lot of fights lately where people have been not like afraid to just smash into me on a regular basis, and I'm like, okay, I'm quite happy with that. My ship builds are very, very solid normally, so there's only a couple of my pirate ships where I try and avoid the ram, but on the whole, my combat ships welcome ramage of all types, all shapes, all sizes. I'll happily ram a Corvette in a Mamba. I'm like that. But you know, I enjoy ramming my opponents. I did quite a reasonable job early on of sidestepping the plasmax, saving my boost, and then just trying to slide away, slip away, or rotate off away from the plasmax as much as possible. And it seemed to be working. Like I say, early on in the fight he seemed to have real struggles hitting me, but he caught back up in the later stage of the fight as he was really doing some massive damage at the end when he'd gone silent running, and he decided to start getting in much closer, and yeah, that worked really well for him. Once he got into real close range, obviously there's less time for me to slide away from the plasmac, and also it is easier to hit the closer you are. So yeah, he definitely started doing some brutal damage towards the end. At this point of the fight, the range he's at is where I'm quite comfortable because my beams are doing way more damage than, you know, and I'm quite happy to step away and sidestep as much as possible. You know, keeping as many pips into boost as possible, and basically diverting all that boost into you know, lateral and vertical thrusters. It's a very simple gimbal scrub technique. It's not very difficult. It's a lot of laterals, a lot of sliding away up and down, like, and right and left, all like, you know, use of the thrusters to stay away from the mean plasmax, which is why I don't like the new plasma charges, because the new plasma charges you can't really sidestep, they just hit you. They have ridiculous shot speed, you're not going to evade them, whereas plasmax comfortable fighting against Plasmax, used to fighting against Plasmax. I do struggle against the railgun and plasma charges because, yeah, harder to sidestep, harder to dodge. But when you're sidestepping as well as I am in this fight, and blinding as much as I am in this fight, yeah, I feel confident. I feel like I can step away. And like I say, Provost did get a handle on it towards the end. If he'd have started the fight as he ends the fight, he'd have done a hell of a lot better. But, you know, it's the way it goes. Sometimes it's an unfavourable fight for him to take on. The lack of chaff means he can't do anything about the blinding beams right in his face. And yeah, when he started coming in closer and hitting me with heavier with the Plasmax, you'll see my shields really do take a battering towards the end of this fight. But up until this point, it's been a very one-sided fight for him, I'm afraid. That's the problem with no chaff. No chaff, a lot of gimballed damage. And with these beams, it's, you know, I'm actually not going for the full heat at this point. But like I say, you know, a nice ram here or there never hurt anyone. But like, I'm not going full heat. I'm trying to protect my modules, keep myself going as long as possible. And yeah, it is quite funny because normally in these fights it's me that's in silent running killing themselves towards the end of the fight, and for once I get to watch someone else do it. So that was quite a nice change of pace for me. Yeah, I do. I realised at this point that, you know, he started to get his eye and he's starting to hit me with more shots, but at this point it's a little bit too little, too late. So I've got to say, he does some impressive damage in the last in his death throes as he's getting really super hot. But yeah, I don't know what it is lately, but everyone seems to have forgotten rule 1 about not ramming me. But yeah, he definitely had to come in close, and then that's when he started to really hurt with the Plasmax. But once those shields go down, yeah, an FDL versus corrosive multi-cannon, emissive multi-cannon at 3 beam lasers, it tends to shred through hull quite well, even if you have got mirrored composite and you're silent running. It's an annoying ship because it does have that emissive, so answers are silent running, and beams do a surprising amount of damage, and even against a mirrored hull or high thermal resistant hull, I've got the corrosive on there. So this ship has a lot of answers to a lot of questions, which is why I do like it. It isn't the best. An all multi-cannon build is better on paper because it's just so little power draw that you can use, you know, more pips to engines, more pips to shields, and still maintain a rate of fire. Whereas with the gimbal beam build, you tend to be a bit glass cannony, not really camping pips. Here I was like, I'll send him a GG and see if he wants to, you know, end it there. But what I didn't realise was he was already dying. I did when I started watching his hull drop. So I don't think he would have survived even if it had stopped. He didn't have enough heat sinks and that, and he didn't have enough hull left. So yeah, for once I get to watch someone burn to death while I'm sat in my beam de lance on a nice cool temperature, not overheating for once. So GG to Provost. It was a bit of a one-sided fight, but then he didn't bring chaff, so yeah, a bit of an unfavourable fight for him. That's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.